This picture is going viral with Bria Hartley with the sinister grin, right? This malevolent look that's on her face right now, clearly smiling after injuring Sophie Cunningham, man.
The photo that broke the internet and nearly broke the WNBA. A single snapshot sent fans into a frenzy. Bria Hartley caught mid-smile on the hardwood while Sophie Cunningham is being carried off the court, clearly in agony. Coincidence? Or cold-blooded? To casual viewers, it looked like bad timing. But for thousands of fans and even some players, it was all the proof they needed.
Play that just occurred.
That's like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it. And she went down hard and was clearly in a lot of pain.
Hartley is the WNBA's dirtiest player. But this wasn't just a dirty foul. This moment sparked outrage across the league, fueling conspiracy theories, family drama, and one burning question: is the WNBA doing enough to protect its stars?
Sophie Cunningham, let's be clear here. Sophie Cunningham was targeted. Let's be very, very clear here. But Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty, dirty player.
Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever, already struggling, were unraveling fast. Until one player stepped up and turned a moment of heartbreak into a season fans will never forget.
Bria Hartley deserves zero benefit of the doubt. And Sophie Cunningham's family not too happy.
It was just another possession until it wasn't. Sophie Cunningham collapsed to the floor, clutching her knee, screaming in pain. Bria Hartley had just barreled toward the basket, but instead of finishing the play, her body slammed awkwardly into Cunningham's right leg. The hit was brutal. Not just your average hard foul, something about it felt off. Fans could sense it. So could the players.
Making all kind of excuses to say that Bria Hartley is not a dirty player. Let me tell y'all something, man. Come on in here. Come on in here, man. Let me tell y'all something. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, eats like a duck, it's a duck, man. Come on, man. She is the dirtiest player in the WNBA right now, winning the trophy. All right? Winning the trophy for it. Don't sit here and try to tell me Bria Hartley is not a dirty player.
Cunningham tried to stand and buckled instantly. Trainers rushed in. Her face twisted in agony as she leaned on their shoulders, unable to walk on her own. Moments later, Cunningham is out for the rest of the game. Tragic? Yes, but what happened next made it unforgettable.
Listen, Sophie Cunningham was targeted, y'all. I'm telling you right now, Sophie Cunningham was targeted by Bria Hartley, and it just is what it is. It is what it is. I don't want to sit here and play games and act like, you know, she wasn't. She was targeted by Bria Hartley, and that's just the fact of the matter. And people can act like it's not all they want. I told you guys this girl was a dirty player. And that's all she did today was show how dirty she is.
As Sophie was helped off the court, the broadcast cut to Bria Hartley, and there it was, a smirk. A slow, unmistakable grin that flashed across her face while her opponent was being carried away. Within minutes, that image was everywhere. Screenshots, reactions, outrage. Was it adrenaline? Was she misunderstood? Or was this the smoking gun, proof that Hartley had crossed a line most players never would?
Look, you can tell Bria Hartley, in my opinion, she launched herself into her knee. She did. And I've seen some of the reaction online. And, guys, it's despicable. It really is. There's a lot of people celebrating this injury. And guess what? You can imagine who it is. It's members of the old WNBA fandom, the ones that root for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson and all.
That moment turned a simple injury into something far bigger. A controversy that would ignite the entire league and leave the WNBA scrambling for answers. For most players, one bad hit is just that, a bad hit. But for Bria Hartley, that smirk wasn't just a moment. It was evidence. Because this wasn't her first time caught in the middle of mayhem. Earlier this season, cameras caught her yanking Angel Reese's hair mid-rebound, nearly sparking a full-blown brawl. In another game, she and Rebecca Allen got into a scuffle so nasty, Hartley was ejected on the spot. Ask fans about Skylar Diggins, and they'll mention the takedown. Scroll the highlight reels, and you'll find Bria dragging opponents to the floor in the middle of chaotic scrambles. One incident, you call it intensity. Two, maybe bad timing. But Hartley's got a whole playlist of these moments, and when you stack them together, the narrative writes itself. Bria Hartley, the WNBA's repeat offender. A player who doesn't just toe the line, she erases it. So when fans saw her smiling as Sophie Cunningham was being helped off the court, they didn't see a misunderstanding. They saw the real Bria slip through, if only for a second. To them, that wasn't adrenaline. That was arrogance. That was a smirk from the league's most unapologetic enforcer, and it confirmed every rumor they'd ever heard. The backlash was instant. Within minutes, Indiana Fever fans were everywhere, flooding Twitter, hijacking comment sections, replaying the clip on loop with one message: that wasn't just dirty, that was heartless. The hashtag Suspend Hartley started trending, but it didn't stop with fans. Sophie Cunningham's family went off. Her sister, Lindsay, torched the officiating, saying refs had cracked down on softer fouls, but somehow let this one slide. Her mom, Paula, didn't hold back either, calling Hartley out of control in a now-deleted post that had already gone viral. It was raw, emotional, and it echoed what thousands of Fever fans were screaming. This wasn't just an injury. This was a failure. A failure to protect one of the league's rising stars. A failure to hold repeat offenders accountable. And a failure from a system that seems quicker to fine a player for speaking out than to actually review a dangerous play that could end a season. To Indiana fans, this felt personal. They weren't just losing Sophie Cunningham. They were losing faith in the league, the refs, the rules. And that grin from Hartley? That smirk became the rallying cry. The face of everything they believed was broken in the WNBA. If the collision sparked the fire, the officiating poured gasoline all over it. Because as Sophie Cunningham was helped off the court, injured, limping, barely able to stand, the game didn't stop. There was no replay, there was nothing, just silence. And then, business as usual. That's what really set fans off. How could the refs watch a franchise player go down in visible pain and not even pause to take a second look? This wasn't a rookie. This was Sophie Cunningham, a starter, a leader, the heart of Indiana's lineup. And they treated it like a routine stumble. The hypocrisy hit hard. Players get fined for a single tweet, for post-game emotions, even for rolling their eyes too hard. But when one of the league's stars is taken out in a collision that could end her season, the refs did nothing. And fans had receipts. They'd been sounding the alarm all year. Inconsistent calls, momentum-shifting fouls ignored, star players taking hits without protection. But Sophie's collapse? That was the last straw. What started as a debate over one play erupted into a league-wide reckoning. Now, the question wasn't just about a foul. It was about the future of the WNBA's credibility. Does this league have an officiating problem? Or worse, is it choosing not to fix it? For Indiana, Cunningham's injury wasn't just a bad break. It was a gut punch to a season already stretched to its limits. The Fever had been fighting uphill battles for weeks. Caitlin Clark was sidelined with a groin issue. Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson were both already ruled out for the year. Depth was thin, rotations were shaky, and now the one player who had been holding the backcourt together was gone. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a scorer. She was a stabilizer. The kind of player who brought toughness, leadership, and grit every time she stepped on the floor. Losing her meant more than just missing points. It meant stripping away one of the team's emotional anchors. By the time she was ruled out for the game, the scoreboard told an even uglier story. Indiana was down by 21 against one of the most physical, disciplined teams in the league. On paper, the night looked finished. A battered roster, their stars on the sidelines, and the air sucked out of the arena after Sophie's collapse. Fans watching at home feared the same thing. This was the breaking point, the unraveling moment. The night Indiana's playoff hopes quietly died. But what happened next would flip that script in the most unbelievable way possible. The game should have been over. Down 21 points, missing their star rookie, losing their veteran leader. Every sign pointed toward a collapse. But instead of folding, the Fever did something no one expected. They fought back. And at the center of it all was Kelsey Mitchell. For most of the first half, she looked quiet, even frustrated, with just 4 points to her name. But when the third quarter tipped off, something changed. Mitchell stopped waiting for the game to come to her. She seized it. Possession after possession, she attacked. Step backs, drives, contested threes, it didn't matter what Connecticut threw at her. Double teams, blitzes, switches, Mitchell cut through them all. By the time the fourth quarter ended, she had piled on 34 points after halftime, finishing with 38 overall. It was one of the most explosive performances of the entire WNBA season. But she wasn't alone. Aaliyah Boston anchored the front court with a bruising double-double, 14 points, 13 rebounds, and a steady presence that kept the fever from unraveling. Odyssey Sims played like she had been running the team all year, dropping 19 points and dishing 7 assists to keep the offense alive. And then came the dagger. Lexi Hull rising from the corner in overtime, drilling a 3 that sent the Fever bench into chaos and deflated the Sun completely. When the final buzzer sounded, the score read Indiana 99, Connecticut 93. The largest comeback in franchise history. A night that looked doomed had turned into one of the most unforgettable wins the Fever have ever pulled off. And yet, the real story wasn't just on the scoreboard. It was waiting in the locker room, where the team's resilience finally came into full view. When the cameras cut away and the arena emptied, the real story of the night was still unfolding. Inside the Fever locker room, the energy wasn't just relief. It was raw, emotional pride. Coach Stephanie White stood before her players, her voice thick with emotion, and told them this win wasn't just about basketball. "We will never, never be counted out," she said, reminding them that what they had just done was the definition of grit. Not theoretical grit, not the kind you talk about in practice, but the kind you live when the season tries to break you and you refuse to let it. Around the room, players were still processing what they'd pulled off. Kelsey Mitchell, still catching her breath after a 38-point masterpiece, received embraces from every teammate who knew she had just saved their season. Aaliyah Boston sat with ice on her knees, smiling through exhaustion, knowing her work on the glass had kept them afloat. And Odyssey Sims, the midseason addition, looked like she had been part of the Fever family for years, her leadership validated in real time. Even the players who couldn't suit up found ways to be there. Caitlin Clark, absent with injury, sent a message on X, battled, 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 so proud. Simple, but powerful enough to remind her teammates she was still locked in with them. And from the training table, Sophie Cunningham herself managed a tweet, raw, unfiltered, 3 words, Kelsey freaking Mitchell. The laughter and relief spilled over too. Sydney Colson joked online, "We down to 4 players, but we ball," turning the night's chaos into a rallying cry. What could have been remembered as a disaster transformed into the kind of story teams build identities around. For the Fever, the comeback was unforgettable, but in that locker room, the bigger win was realizing they had something stronger than depth charts or scouting reports. They had each other. By the end of the night, 2 stories had taken shape. On one side, Bria Hartley was cemented as the league's newest villain, the player with a history of scrappy incidents, now caught grinning as Sophie Cunningham limped off the floor. On the other, the Indiana Fever had pulled off the greatest comeback in franchise history, proving they could survive chaos, injuries, and even controversy stacked against them. The image of Hartley's smirk became the lightning rod. To fans already convinced of her dirty reputation, it wasn't just a bad look, it was proof. Proof that she crossed the line. Proof that the league wasn't doing enough to rein her in. The call for suspension grew louder by the hour, with analysts, writers, and fans demanding the WNBA step in. Some argued that if the league ignored this moment, it would send a dangerous message about accountability. At the same time, the Fever's resilience turned them into a symbol of defiance. A team that looked broken at halftime had clawed back and stunned one of the league's most physical opponents. Kelsey Mitchell's performance wasn't just about numbers, it was about carrying her teammates when everything around them seemed to be falling apart. Boston's toughness, Sims's leadership, Hull's clutch shot, each piece of the rally reminded fans why Indiana refused to be counted out. The contrast was striking. Hartley's grin versus Cunningham's pain. A roster stretched thin versus a comeback for the ages. Villainy on one side, resilience on the other. And at the heart of it all, a question that still hangs over the league. Where is the line between toughness and recklessness? Between competitive fire and outright endangerment? That's why this moment became more than just a controversial foul. It turned into a referendum on how the WNBA protects its stars, how it enforces accountability, and how quickly a single image can define a player's legacy. One image changed everything. Bria Hartley's grin, frozen on the broadcast, turned a collision into a scandal. To some, it was nothing more than adrenaline caught at the wrong time. To others, it was the face of a player who had finally shown her true colors. But no matter how you see it, the fallout was undeniable. Sophie Cunningham went down, her season now in question. Fans and family erupted, demanding accountability. And the Indiana Fever, left shorthanded and battered, answered with the greatest comeback in franchise history, a night that transformed pain into pride. The bigger questions still linger. Should Bria Hartley face suspension? Has the WNBA failed to protect its stars? And when does physical play cross the line into something darker? We want to hear from you. Was Hartley's smile an accident or proof of intent? Should the league step in? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. And if you're here for stories that go beyond the box score, the drama, the resilience, the moments that shake the game, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. Because in a league where one play can flip everything, this story was just the beginning.